The boundaries between dreaming and waking are often hard to define, a paradox that has haunted humankind for centuries. Every morning, we wake up, rub the sleep from our eyes, and begin our day, convinced that we are fully awake. But how can we be sure? What if, in this very moment, you're still dreaming? Imagine waking up in the middle of the night, heart racing, unsure whether you're in the comforting embrace of sleep or staring into the harsh light of reality. This moment, the unsettling gray area between the dream world and the waking world, forms the basis of one of humanity's greatest mysteries. Could it be that we've all been in a dream, a state of false reality this entire time? The idea that we are not truly awake, that what we perceive as the real world could be no more than a vivid illusion, challenges the very essence of existence. The ancient Greeks pondered this dilemma, the question of whether our senses deceive us. Leading us to live in a dreamlike state has persisted through philosophy, psychology, and even neuroscience. But how do we reconcile our unquestionable certainty that we are awake with the possibility that we may be stuck in a perpetual dream? In the coming moments, we will dive deep into this unsettling question, blending history, science, and philosophy. As we peel back the layers of perception, we will explore the implications of being trapped between waking and dreaming, asking the question, what if you are not truly alive as you think you are? And with that question hanging in the air, we journey through time to seek answers from the minds that have tried to answer it, from ancient philosophers to modern scientists.
Throughout history, the concept of dreaming has been a gateway to understanding the very nature of existence. The ancient Greeks were among the first to question the reliability of the senses and the world we perceive. In his allegory of the cave, Plato famously depicted prisoners who were chained in a cave, forced to watch shadows on a wall. These shadows, which were the only reality they knew, were mere reflections of the outside world, a distorted, dreamlike version of reality. Plato's allegory forces us to ask, are we too, like the prisoners, trapped in a dream, unaware of the true nature of existence? Similarly, René Descartes, one of the founding figures of modern philosophy, famously said, "I think, therefore I am." Yet he also acknowledged the possibility that his thoughts could be the product of a deceiving force, a malicious demon, who might be orchestrating a false reality. Descartes' meditations on first philosophy forced us to question whether our waking experiences, the ones we hold most dear as truth, might simply be dreams. His skepticism wasn't just about the physical world, it extended to the very foundations of knowledge itself. As we move through time, we see that the question of what constitutes reality and whether dreaming plays a role in shaping it continues to resurface. In ancient Eastern philosophies, like those found in Hinduism and Buddhism, the concept of Maya, illusion, presents a world that is not what it appears to be. The material world is often described as a transient, deceptive force, like a dream that we mistake for the truth. According to these beliefs, enlightenment comes when we awaken from the illusion of the material world and realize the oneness of existence. These ideas didn't stay confined to the ancient world. Fast forward to the 20th century, and thinkers like Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung delved into the subconscious mind. Freud, with his psychoanalytic theory, viewed dreams as a window into the unconscious, revealing hidden desires and fears. Jung, on the other hand, saw dreams as a bridge between the conscious and unconscious, providing us with archetypes and symbols that reflect the deeper truths of human existence. Their works expanded on the notion that dreams weren't merely random images, but profound, meaningful aspects of our psyche. The idea that dreams are more than just random thoughts, that they might hold the key to understanding who we are and the nature of reality, continued to evolve through the 20th century. As we will see, This philosophical and psychological understanding of dreams became a critical piece in unlocking the deeper mysteries of consciousness itself. Throughout these various cultural and intellectual periods, the idea that dreaming, both in its literal and metaphorical forms, might be connected to the truth of human existence has been explored. Whether through ancient allegories or modern psychology, history tells us that the line between dreaming and reality has always been a subject of deep, unanswerable curiosity. And in the search for truth, we find ourselves standing at the same question that has haunted mankind for millennia. What if we've been living in a dream all along?
Dreams have long been a mirror to our subconscious mind, offering us glimpses into the hidden layers of our psyche. But what exactly are dreams? Are they just random flickers of the mind, or is there a deeper meaning behind them? To understand the nature of dreaming and its potential connection to the question of reality, we must first delve into the mind itself. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, proposed that dreams were the royal road to the unconscious. In his seminal work, The Interpretation of Dreams, Freud argued that dreams were expressions of repressed desires, often sexual in nature, that the conscious mind had suppressed. For Freud, the imagery in dreams, the people, the places, and the objects we encounter were symbols of deeper unconscious wishes and fears. According to Freud, dreams allow us to explore these hidden aspects of ourselves in a way that would be too dangerous or overwhelming in waking life. Carl Jung, Freud's once ally turned critic, extended the understanding of dreams into a more collective realm. Jung introduced the concept of the collective unconscious, a reservoir of shared human experiences and archetypes that are passed down through generations. In this framework, dreams serve not only as a window into the individual psyche, but also as a connection to universal themes. Jung believed that the symbols in our dreams, such as the hero, the shadow, and the wise old man, are not just reflections of our personal lives, but echoes of universal human experiences. These archetypes, he argued, hold deeper meanings that can help guide us towards self-actualization. The psychology of dreaming doesn't just end with Freud and Jung. In modern psychology, dreams are understood as a way for the brain to process emotions, memories, and unresolved conflicts. Cognitive theories suggest that during REM sleep, the brain is actively organizing and consolidating experiences from the day. Dreams, therefore, are not only a reflection of our deepest fears and desires, but also an essential process for maintaining emotional health and problem-solving abilities. Researchers have even proposed that dreaming plays a role in memory consolidation and creativity, helping us make sense of the world and our place in it. Yet, the most intriguing aspect of dreaming lies in its ability to blur the lines between reality and fantasy. Consider the phenomenon of lucid dreaming, where the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming and can often control the narrative of the dream. Lucid dreamers are able to manipulate their dream environment, but the sensation of being in a fully immersive, tangible world is just as real as waking life. This begs the question, if we can create whole worlds in our minds while we sleep, what's to say that the reality we experience while awake isn't similarly constructed by the brain, just like a dream? Another compelling aspect of dreaming is false awakenings, a phenomenon in which the dreamer believes they've woken up, only to find themselves still dreaming. This experience can be profoundly disorienting, as it feels entirely real, leaving the dreamer questioning whether they've truly left the dream world behind. It's moments like these that highlight the precarious nature of our reality. If the mind can create such convincing illusions during sleep, What if our waking reality is similarly manufactured by the brain, just like a dream? In exploring the psychology of dreaming, we are forced to confront an unsettling truth. The mind is capable of creating realities so vivid and convincing that we cannot always tell them apart from what we perceive as the waking world. Dreams challenge our assumptions about the nature of reality, making us question how much of what we experience is shaped by our minds rather than objective truth. And perhaps most profoundly, they ask us, what if our reality is just another dream we haven't woken up yet? As we move further into this exploration of reality, the lines between what we consider to be real and imagined will only become more blurred. The psychology of dreaming holds the key to understanding not only the workings of our mind, but also the very essence of what it means to be awake.
Dreams are not merely abstract psychological experiences, but are deeply tied to the workings of the brain. Understanding the neuroscience behind dreaming reveals just how much our brains shape our perception of reality. The brain's ability to create vivid, lifelike dreams is more than a quirk of human nature. It is a testament to the brain's complex architecture and its ability to manipulate sensory inputs, emotions, and memories. To grasp the neuroscience of dreaming, we first need to look at sleep itself. The human sleep cycle consists of several stages, and the most intriguing for dreamers is rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. During REM sleep, the brain is highly active, almost as if it were awake, and it is in this stage that most vivid dreams occur. What makes REM sleep particularly fascinating is that during this period, the brain activity closely resembles that of being awake, with high-frequency brain waves and increased blood flow to the regions associated with sensory processing. One of the key functions of REM sleep, according to neuroscience, is memory consolidation. During this phase, the brain processes and organizes experiences from the day, moving them from short-term to long-term memory. It is during this time that our brains also sort through emotions, unresolved feelings, and past experiences. As a result, dreams often reflect these stored experiences, sometimes taking on the role of emotional regulation or problem solving. But this process does not stop at simply organizing memories. The brain has an uncanny ability to construct an entire world, complete with landscapes, characters, and sensory experiences that feel just as real as waking life. Neuroscientists have also identified the role of neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin in dreaming. These chemicals, which regulate mood, pleasure, and wakefulness, are released in varying amounts during sleep, contributing to the emotional intensity of dreams. For example, high levels of dopamine may lead to more vivid and euphoric dreams, while serotonin fluctuations can create a dream world full of anxiety or tension. The brain is essentially experimenting with its own neurochemical cocktail, and the results are our dreams. But what about the nature of the waking world? The brain doesn't just passively receive sensory input, it actively interprets and constructs reality. The top-down processing mechanism in the brain shapes our perceptions based on prior knowledge, expectations, and beliefs. In essence, the brain doesn't simply react to what we see and hear, it constantly interprets and reconstructs our experiences, often filling in gaps based on memory or prior experience. This phenomenon suggests that the brain is always constructing a version of reality, even when we think we are perceiving the world directly. The very process that allows us to experience dreams may be at work in our waking moments as well. This raises an unsettling question. If the brain is constantly constructing a reality, how can we be sure that our waking life is any more real than a dream? Our sensory experiences are filtered, interpreted, and reconstructed by the brain, creating a version of the world that is more like a dream than a direct experience of reality. From a neurological standpoint, our perception of being awake may not be as distinct from dreaming as we once thought. This leads us to the brain in a vat hypothesis, a philosophical concept that suggests the brain could entirely be detached from the external world and instead be receiving electrical signals that simulate reality. This thought experiment forces us to ask, what if everything we experience, including the world around us, is just a construct of the mind, like a dream we never wake from? The neuroscience of dreaming and perception challenges our fundamental assumptions about reality. If the brain can so convincingly simulate the dream world, what makes us certain that what we experience as real is not just another dream? Could it be that we are already living in a dream, and we just haven't realized it yet?
In the 21st century, the question of what is real and what is imagined has evolved beyond philosophical debate to become a central concern in our interaction with technology. The rise of the digital world, from social media to virtual reality, VR, has blurred the lines between the tangible and the intangible, leading us to question the authenticity of our experiences and interactions. In the digital age, we are constantly immersed in a world that is not physically present, yet it feels incredibly real. Social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter create virtual spaces where we curate versions of our lives. These online personas are often more polished, idealized versions of ourselves, designed to evoke admiration and validation. But the question arises, are these virtual representations of ourselves any less real than the person we are offline? Just like a dream, these digital identities are created by us, yet they may seem more vivid, more immediate, and more engaging than the real world. They are constructed experiences, carefully curated and manipulated to fit a narrative, much like the way our minds construct dreams. The advent of virtual reality, VR, and augmented reality, AR, has taken this phenomenon to new heights. In VR, users can fully immerse themselves in an entirely constructed world, experiencing lifelike interactions with avatars, environments, and objects that seem just as real as those in the waking world. In a VR game, for example, players can feel as though they are physically present in a different reality, interacting with a world that only exists within the digital space. The sensation is so convincing that it's easy to lose track of time and forget that the experience is nothing more than a simulation, a dream of sorts. When the lines between the digital and physical worlds are so seamlessly merged, how can we be certain that our perception of reality isn't just another layer of illusion? The advent of artificial intelligence, AI, and deepfake technology further complicates our understanding of what is real. AI-generated images, videos, and audio clips can now create hyper-realistic simulations of people, events, and conversations. These digital replicas are so convincing that they can deceive even the most discerning eyes. In a world where a deepfake video can make it seem as though a person is saying something they never actually did, the idea of reality itself becomes increasingly fluid. If we can create entire personas, histories, and events through digital manipulation, how do we know that our own perception of reality isn't similarly constructed or distorted? Moreover, the algorithms that power social media platforms curate our experiences, presenting us with content that aligns with our beliefs and interests, shaping our perception of the world. This process of algorithmic manipulation can trap us in echo chambers, where we are fed information that reinforces our pre-existing views, often without our conscious awareness. In this way, the digital world has become a dreamlike environment, where reality is shaped by unseen forces, just like the dream world is shaped by our subconscious desires and fears. We are in essence living in a simulated version of the world, manipulated by algorithms that control what we see, hear, and experience. The digital age has created a new kind of reality, one that exists in parallel with the physical world, but one that is constructed, edited, and manipulated. This digital realm is just as immersive, just as engaging,
and in many ways, just as convincing as the waking world. The more we immerse ourselves in these digital experiences, the more we blur the boundaries between reality and illusion. What if the digital world, with its carefully constructed experiences and altered perceptions, is merely another version of a dream, one we willingly enter every time we pick up our phones or put on a VR headset? As we continue to blur the lines between the physical and the digital, the question remains, are we really awake? Are the experiences we have in the digital realm any less real than the ones we have in the physical world? In the digital age, the very nature of reality is up for debate. And perhaps, the real question is no longer whether we are alive, but whether we are truly awake in the world we live in.
If we look at life through the lens of existential philosophy, we find that the notion of reality itself can feel like a cosmic joke, an absurd, fleeting experience in which we search for meaning in a universe that seems indifferent to our existence. It is in this absurdity that we begin to see a parallel between dreams and life itself. Albert Camus, one of the most influential existential thinkers, argued that life is inherently absurd. In his essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus presents the image of Sisyphus, the Greek king condemned to push a boulder up a mountain only to watch it roll back down over and over for eternity. For Camus, Sisyphus's plight is a perfect metaphor for the human condition, a constant, futile struggle against the inevitable meaninglessness of existence. Much like Sisyphus, we too struggle through life, searching for meaning and purpose, only to find that it is never fully attainable. The question then is not about whether life has meaning, but how we choose to live in the face of that absurdity. Camus proposed that instead of succumbing to despair, we must embrace the absurdity of life, accepting that we will never have all the answers, but that in accepting the struggle, we can find freedom. His conclusion was simple yet profound. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. In other words, it is in our willingness to confront the absurdity of life that we can find meaning, much as Sisyphus finds purpose in his eternal struggle. This existential view aligns remarkably well with the nature of dreaming. Dreams, like life, are ephemeral and fleeting, full of meaning, yet utterly incomprehensible. In our dreams, we search for answers, whether it's the meaning of a bizarre symbol, the significance of a recurring character, or the reason behind a strange sequence of events. But just as in life, the answers are never clear. Dreams offer us glimpses into our subconscious, into our deepest fears, desires, and unresolved conflicts, yet they are often as puzzling as the questions they seek to answer. Much like the existential search for meaning, dreams provide us with a framework within which we explore our emotional and psychological landscapes. They're a playground for the mind, offering us scenarios that seem to carry significance but often dissolve into confusion upon waking. Just as we search for meaning in our waking lives, we search for coherence in our dreams. But more often than not, we are left with questions rather than answers. In this way, life and dreams share a fundamental characteristic. Both are full of promise and potential, yet ultimately unsolvable. The absurdity of life and the illusory nature of dreams also echo the themes of duality and impermanence. In dreams, we can be both the observer and the participant, often unaware of the distinction. Similarly, in life, we move between roles, perspectives, and experiences, never quite grasping the whole of who we are or what we are doing. In both realms, we are caught in a never-ending loop of trying to make sense of something that perhaps was never meant to be fully understood. At its core, the absurdity of life challenges us to embrace the unknown, to accept that we may never wake up to a fully realized truth, whether in the dream world or in our existence. Like Sisyphus, we must continue pushing our boulder, questioning, struggling, and seeking, knowing that the journey itself is what gives life its richness, even if it lacks inherent meaning. And in this absurd pursuit, we may find the ultimate freedom, the freedom to exist fully, even within the confines of a world that may not offer us any final answers. So, as we journey through the paradoxes of life and dreaming, we are reminded that the absurdity we face might be the very thing that makes us alive. In the end, it's not about waking up from the dream, it's about learning to live with it, accepting its mystery, and finding joy in the uncertainty.
As we approach the end of this journey into the nature of dreams and reality, we are left with a haunting and unresolved question. Are we truly awake? Or have we merely awakened to a different kind of dream? Throughout this exploration, we've traversed the realms of philosophy, psychology, neuroscience, and even the digital age to uncover how our minds perceive the world. But with each discovery, the lines between what is real and what is imagined blur even further. We began by examining how ancient philosophers, like Plato and Descartes, pondered the possibility that our senses might deceive us, leading us to live in a dream-like state. We looked at how modern psychologists and neuroscientists have unraveled the processes of the mind, showing that dreams and waking experiences are both constructed by the brain, leaving us to wonder if the reality we experience while awake is any more real than the dreams we have while asleep. We then ventured into the digital age, where social media, virtual reality, and AI have created entire worlds that are just as convincing, just as immersive, and in many ways, just as real as the world we physically inhabit. We live in a time where what we see, hear, and experience is carefully curated, manipulated, and shaped by forces beyond our control. The algorithms that guide our interactions on social platforms, the avatars we create in virtual spaces, and the deepfakes that alter our perception of truth are all modern-day manifestations of the dream world we've created for ourselves. And yet, the more we dive into these concepts, the more we come to realize that the line between the waking world and the dream world is more porous than we ever imagined. The brain is a master illusionist, constantly constructing our reality, whether we're asleep or awake. The digital world we have built, with its carefully crafted realities and altered truths, is just another layer of the same illusion. In the end, the question is not simply whether we are dreaming or awake, but what we choose to do with the reality we've been given. Life, much like a dream, is fleeting, uncertain, and often perplexing. But it is also an opportunity to embrace the mystery, to search for meaning in a world that may never offer us definitive answers. Perhaps it's in accepting the uncertainty, the absurdity, and the complexity of existence that we truly begin to live. So, are we awake? Or are we simply in another layer of the dream? The answer is elusive, but perhaps the beauty lies not in the certainty of being awake, but in the journey of questioning, exploring, and discovering, even in the face of an uncertain reality. In this dream and in this life, it is the act of awakening that truly matters.